Thank you, John, and thank you very much, Secretary Domingo. I think as this evolves today, what you have stated and the optimism will be supplemented with further detail that comes from the experts in the subsequent panels. My slides are not up. I think we also have a technical problem with projecting those. But in your folders, everyone has a copy of the slides, and I'd like you to sort of quickly read along with them. There are about 20 of them. Also in your folders is a copy of the Arangkada Assessment, and we have almost 50 experts who have worked on this in the last several months. And if you have not seen the Arangkada document itself, which, as Secretary Domingo mentioned, was launched at DTI in December a year ago, this is what it looks like, and it's available to everyone free on the website arangkadaphilippines.com, and you can download it there. The document is a living document. It was written over the course of a year with 300 investors, Filipino and foreign, and is updated with news, and this is the first annual assessment. We are here together to observe that occasion. I want to report briefly on some of our Arangkada activities of the Joint Foreign Chambers over the last year. And I sort of want to celebrate the fact that we have in this audience approximately 400 participants, and they represent the public and private sectors. We have about 150 from the public sector, mostly of the Philippines, but also foreign embassies and donor organizations. And we have about 250 from the private sector, of which about 50 are from the media, including the 25 that will come with the president later. That's, after all, what Arangkada is about. It's a public-private partnership. I want you to send in your questions, if you would like. And those that are watching on the web around the world, they can be sent in by email. They can be a handwritten note given to a number of the waiters and the ladies from the JFCs around the room, and they can be tweeted to Arangkada PH, or you can do it on Facebook. And if we are not able in the brief open forums after each panel to answer them, we will endeavor to answer them after the forum. There is a forum program as well as the bios. We're not going to read the bios of the 40 speakers today. They're there for you to read, please. The organization of Arangkada is growing too slow, part one, and I think we agree with Secretary Domingo. We are growing, but we are growing based too much on remittances of OFWs and not enough on new jobs being created in the Philippines. And the growth that is targeted in the PDP is 7 or 8%, and that's generally recognized as the level of growth to sustain over a number of years to have growth be inclusive. So I don't think we disagree in any way with the Secretary or with the PDP. But our first speaker, Bobby DeCampo, will talk a bit about growth for about 30 minutes. Bill Luce will talk about the second part, becoming more competitive, and he has oodles of details and statistics, Bill. I know you always do. Infrastructure, we have a panel of experts. The 6 big winter sectors similarly, and also the general business environment. And we have 3 superb moderators in Mr. David Celdran, Ms. Maria Ressa, and Mr. Coco Alquaz. The JFCs, since releasing Arangkada, have held almost 70 advocacy meetings, mostly with the executive branch of the Philippine government, but also with the legislative branch and the Supreme Court, and a number of other senior private sector and religious leaders. We have put up a website which has had over 15,000 visitors from more than 100 countries, and I'm sure today will go up by several thousand more. We held a workshop of 125 investors on the 7 big winners sectors in March, and that produced a dozen letters that were sent to various cabinet secretaries with recommendations. And we're holding the workshop today, and it's being webcast, hopefully around the world, including by our online partner Rappler, which I believe has it on live now before the afternoon entertainment from the Senate. We have a partnership from the National Competitiveness Council. Many of us sit with Bill Luce's 10 working groups on positive projects to move things forward, and we cooperate with up to a dozen Philippine business groups in various advocacies. And we produce this assessment. On growing too slow, there is a slide which shows growth since '09. We compare the 6 ASEAN countries, the economies throughout Arangkada. And Philippine growth was a laggard in the 80s and 90s, and it did catch up to be on an average with the other ASEAN countries, except for Vietnam, in the first decade. And there's a chart there that shows exactly how the Philippines is in the middle as of last year. So we're not doing badly compared to the others. I think the real question is, do we have to do better than the others, because in the previous decades they were doing better than us? Then there's a chart on foreign direct investment. And here we truly agree that we are lagging. We welcome the results of the studies at GTI that will show how much is reinvesting, because we've had, the American Chamber of Commerce is celebrating its 100th anniversary. We've had investors here for a century. Vietnam has had war, Cambodia's had war, even Burma now, they're opening up. So you can't always compare apples and oranges, but nevertheless, the figure in this chart for the Philippines is quite low, and UNCTAD has just released its figures for last year. We all, I think, would agree that we need to work much harder to increase it. There is one chart, and I refer to study later, under competitiveness, where we have looked at 12 or so of the overall competitiveness rankings around the world. And when we did this a year ago, we saw that the pattern that was the Philippines was deteriorating rather than improving. And I'm happy to say, having included the Economic Freedom Index, which was released last week, that for what we're tracking here, the Philippines is now improving more than it's deteriorating. And I hope that trend will continue, and our partnership with Mr. Luce to get it up to that ambitious target of the top third. 7 big winners sectors, I will just skip over and explain our methodology. If you move through Lito, welcome. There's my slides are in your book. We're trying to go through them. In our assessment, we asked the almost 50 experts to basically look at the 470 recommendations collectively. So each of them would take, for example, in mining, they take the team that did mining would look at the 30 or so recommendations in mining, et cetera, et cetera. And we used a system of 6 stars. 1 star meant that it was no longer relevant for various reasons. 6 stars mean it had been implemented. That was the range. 2 stars meant regression, that there was backward movement. 3 stars meant that it had not started. 4 stars meant that it had begun. And 5 stars meant there was significant progress. You will see a chart at the beginning of the book. There are a couple of 2.5 stars or 4.5 stars. It's a system that is not perfect, but it is a system where people who know what's going on in the sectors have given their best judgment. There are some brief narratives as well. There's a lot of material in there. It's 133 pages, and please take it away and absorb it and get back with us with any questions. To summarize the results, you will see 4 slides that add up. We're 3 stars where it hasn't moved, or 2 stars has gone backwards, or 3.5 up to 6. We've added them all up. There are tables there. You can see which sectors have progressed more or less than the others. And the grand total, if we accept this methodology, is 55% are 3.5 to 6. That means they have started, they made significant progress, or they've been implemented, and 45% have not, or are moving backwards. So if we follow the methodology of the investors in Arangkada, the lesson is to look at those that haven't started and see if they can be started in the next year, and to move those that have started further along the path towards implementation. I think these slides are fairly self-explanatory. There also are pie charts. For those that aren't happy with horizontal bar graphs or tables, we also have pie charts. Now, I'm sorry that everybody doesn't have a color copy. As I do, it was too expensive, but this will be up on the website and you can download and print it out on your own printer or read it subsequently. But again, the first pie chart that shows the overall rankings shows 55% moving and 45% not. And then it shows examples of road and rail and tourism, because in road and rail, it's moving more slowly, and tourism is moving more fast. So these are just slides to show you the methodology. And there is a slide to show the arrow with the recommendation. There are 471 of these arrows, all moving to the right. It shows the recommendation that is in Arangkada, and it shows a brief narrative on its status. The one that is shown here in the BPO sector, and I see Fred Ayala, the chairman of BPAP, is here, is about legislation. There's been significant progress in legislating the bills that are a priority to the BPO sector. That gets 5 stars, almost implemented. At the same time, from infrastructure, road and rail, there's an arrow showing that it's really regressive. The expectations of the experts were that rail projects would start and some toll road projects, more would start. The fact that they haven't been bid out yet, contracts haven't been awarded, they haven't gotten to financial closure or broken ground would indicate not that they haven't started, but in the view of the experts here, that it actually is moving backwards by not moving forward. Finally, and I'm going to wrap up, we want to note the documents or the studies done by 4 banks, beginning with Goldman Sachs several years ago and recently updated, HSBC, Standard Chartered, and ADB and Citibank. All of these are available online. Goldman Sachs put the Philippines as one of the N11. As you know, they came up with the BRIC, B-R-I-C. Philippines is one of the 11. They predict that the Philippines would be the 17th largest economy by 2050. Citi, in February of last year, in their 3G study, said the Philippines could be the 6th of the 10th fastest growing economies in the world by 2050, with 7.3% growth over a 4-decade period, with a GDP per capita growth of 5.5% over that 40-year period. And HSBC, as you saw in the newspapers last week, in their January study called The World in 2050, predicted the Philippines would be the 16th largest economy by 2050. However, the ADB, in the study released in Tokyo in last year, looking at the world in 2050, admitted that the Philippines was an aspiring economy and could grow as these 3 banks have predicted if, and it's a big if, it's able to move out of the middle income trap. And I had a call yesterday from someone very prominent who was there in Japan, a former leader of this country, said, please emphasize that ADB is saying the Philippines has severe challenges to get out of that middle income track. You get stuck with low quality jobs, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to conclude by reminding you that when we released Arangkada, we made a prediction that if the private investors' recommendations for the key 7 big winners sectors are implemented and carried out quickly, that we could achieve an FDI inflow of $7.5 billion a year and create 10 million jobs over a decade. So with that, I'm going to conclude by encouraging everyone to look again at our website, arangkadaphilippines.com or investphilippines.info, or the website of our online partner, rappler.com. I see Maria is tweeting something right now. Thank you, Marita. We invite you to send questions by Twitter, Facebook, write them in, or by email. Thank you very much.